Reduce, reuse, and recycle. I'm sure we've all heard this phrase used many times within the past couple of decades. In regards to recycling, although recycling has made a huge difference in big cities, some of the smaller cities have been left behind in this. Recycling isn't just for urban areas though. Recycling is just as much for urban areas as rural areas and communities, much like Decatur, Texas. This summer I have moved to Georgetown, Texas, which is just outside of the Austin city limits, which is a big city. And since I've been there, I've witnessed how available and prevalent recycling is in the big city. And so for this, I have seen that I've done research on the topic of recycling within the past week and have seen how not accessible it is in small towns such as Decatur. So to benefit Decatur economically and ecologically, we need to partner with the recycling program. First, I will address the history of recycling in the US, and then I'll move on to present a solution to the issues. To understand more about the importance of recycling, we will talk about the harms that are included in the topic. So especially for the small town of Decatur, I have gone ahead and put a map of Texas up here. And in this map, it has all of the counties marked out, and right there at that red dot, that's Decatur, Texas. It's in the North Texas region. And then after I did that, I decided that I needed to do a little research about where there are recycling centers around Decatur, Texas. And so for that, I plugged it into Google, and in Google Maps, it shows that all the recycling areas outside of Decatur, Texas. But as you can see, there are many locations around Decatur. And this is simply because it's a small town and it's in a more rural area. And so that is one issue that has caused a lack of recycling accessibility in Decatur. But then another issue is the landfill situation. And so a harm with the landfill situation is that they're often expensive and often very wasteful. So in this slide, I've gone ahead and put in some visual references as to what landfills look like in the real world in situations like that. So in an article called The Municipal Solid Waste, and it was published in the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in 2014, it says that the average person generates about 4 pounds of trash daily. Now that doesn't seem like a whole lot, but once you add it into a year, that's 1.5 tons of solid waste per person. And that might not also seem like a whole lot either. But in the United States Census Bureau in 2017, it says that Decatur, Texas has 6,721 people living in the city. And so with that, whenever you calculate in how much trash goes in each person a year, which is 1.5 tons, that equals out to 10,081.5 tons of waste every year for Decatur, Texas. And that turns into be a lot of waste and a lot of space taken up in the landfill and in the environment. In a article published in the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, in 2016, it says that 75% of American waste stream can be recycled but isn't. And so that's 75% of the waste in the landfill, which 75% of 10,081.5 tons, we could mark down our waste to 2,520 tons for Decatur, Texas, which is a big chunk of waste. So not only is it ecologically ineffective, but it's also economically ineffective. Lane Community College ran a study in 2014 about the cost versus landfill and recycling. And says that for recycling 1 ton of material, it's $359.21. But if you take it to the landfill, it costs $717.11. And that's on the Census of the United States for the landfill. And that's a big budget change. And so if you can do something to help with recycling, you will ultimately break down the costs that the city has to pay. In this next slide, I inserted a video, and it's a video of Lynn Bestill, and so it was published in eHow on YouTube. And he's a solid waste planning engineer and recycling program coordinator. So I'll go ahead and play this for y'all. All right, so in this video, he talks about how there's 13,000 pounds of waste per 1 cubic meter of landfill. And he talks about how how it's expensive and it's buying land whenever you use a landfill. So that's another way that recycling can reduce the cost. So now that we have seen that recycling is a key piece needed for waste management, we'll go ahead and talk about how we can solve this issue. So with this issue, we can see examples in other areas in other states. And one of these states that has worked tirelessly to make their recycling effective is California. And so there's a small town, which is about the same population as Decatur, which is called Castro Valley. And in their waste management, which was written by Asher Price, if you buy a garbage container that is 3 cubic meters or smaller, your collection service will include an equal amount of recycling built in with your garbage rate, and they call this the bundled rate. And so for this means that every time you buy a garbage bin that's 3 cubic meters or smaller, you also get a recycling bin that's 3 cubic meters or smaller, which helps with the effective use of recycling. And along with this, I interviewed a man named Ellis Hinton, and he lives in Georgetown, Texas currently. And he has experienced recycling in many different states. So he has previously lived in California, Colorado, and Tyler, Texas, and now resides in Georgetown, Texas. So with his experience in recycling, previously he has always had to buy a bin, and that has been a detour to him using recycling effectively. But since he's been in Georgetown, who has a bundled rate with their city, where you can have the same recycling and you get a garbage bin in a bundled situation, he has used that effectively, and so has that whole town. And so that's been extremely beneficial to Georgetown. So a solution for Decatur, Texas, I would say, would be Recycle Revolution Dallas. And it's been 11 years of recycling and composting, and they travel to different small towns in order to produce good and effective recycling for each town. Now that we've reviewed a solution to the lack of accessibility to recycling in Decatur, Texas, I'll go ahead and review what we've learned and discussed today. So to benefit Decatur economically and ecologically, we need to partner with the recycling program. And that recycling program is Recycle Revolution Dallas. Since that land waste and landfills are not an effective solution to economically or ecologically, it's important that we partner. And so on here I have put the information where you can go ahead and contact as the City Council of Decatur today, and I challenge you to do that. We need to make a change. As the world grows and continues to develop, the waste that we produce is left behind. And continuing to bury the waste in landfills is an extremely temporary solution, much like cleaning and just shoving your clothes under your bed. It's out of sight, but it's not out of mind. We need to begin utilizing our resources and reduce, reuse, and recycle. All right, so now is the time for questions, if y'all have any. Okay.
Are there any recycling facilities in Decatur currently?
aren't any recycling facilities in Decatur, but what most people do is they go and they outsource their recycling to bigger cities such as Denton, which is about 30 minutes away, or something like that. So it's an extreme inconvenience and most people opt out of it, and it becomes more cost ineffective. So not so much, and that's why this would be extremely important for us to do. Are there any more questions?
And then how do I get in touch with the recycling program? Just that number?
There are many different ways that you can get in touch, as well as many different recycling programs in the DFW area. But the one that I would suggest for you today would be the Recycle Revolution Dallas, because they outsource to different small cities around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And their contact information I have put on this slide.